In 2023, I had a rather abrupt separation from my final employer and just knew that I was never going to have a job or need to have a job again. And ever since then, I've just been literally just trying to figure out how to help people in the way that feels right to me. I knew that there was such a better way to deliver care in the outpatient setting than the standard is currently. And I see that as a huge opportunity. Doing something like starting your own business is extremely hard. It doesn't mean it's not fun, but it's hard. I have 4 core values in the practice. One of them is access. The other values are trust. Hospitality is a big one as well. And the last one is accountability. So those 4 core values, every decision I'm making for the practice, I run it through those 4 filters. How I want to take care of people aligns pretty well with how people want to be taken care of.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Stephen, for being on the Dermbiz podcast today. I'm excited to chat with you. I'm excited to hear about your successful private practice you have in Wausau. If you could, can you start off by just telling me, telling our viewers a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your private practice?
You bet. Thanks, Tony, for having me here and everyone on the Dermbiz show team for, first of all, inviting me and setting all this up. It's always a pleasure to be able to be on someone else's stage. Those are words that a marketing expert shared with me one time, which is relevant to the business end of things. And I don't take that for granted. So thanks for sharing me with your audience. And I will share a little bit about just where I'm coming from, where I was, and where I am right now. I think it'll be a unique look for your listeners because it's a very early snapshot of a private practice in a fairly unconventional way, I think, as well. So I'm happy to share anything that might be helpful. So again, my name is Dr. Stephen Lewellis. I'm a board certified dermatologist practicing in central Wisconsin. And I practiced in very conventional settings, at least these days, conventional, 2 different corporate settings for the first 4 years of my career after
Okay.
graduating from residency, where I did that at Stanford and finished in 2019. I was in Minneapolis for 2 years and then central Wisconsin, where I live now, for 2 years as well at similar corporate type of practices. In 2023, sometime in the middle, I had a rather abrupt separation from my last and hopefully final employer, and just knew that I was never going to have a job or need to have a job again. And ever since then, I've just been literally just trying to figure out how to help people in the way that feels right to me and filling in the sort of mechanical business type of gaps along the way, also in a way that feels right to me. And there are some aspects of that that I think we can all do better at. So that's where I am, and happy to go into details of any parts of my practice because it is fairly unique. I'm the only one who works in it currently, so that is a very unique part about it. It's evolving over time, but happy to dig in wherever you think would be helpful.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with um, and share with us as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. Hmm.
But we always talk about the power of having the right motivator when you're starting your private practice.
Yeah.
So many times people think it's some people may do it for ego, some people may do it for they may be money motivated. And what we found is that it has to be something deeper than that. It has to be some kind of foundational internal belief, some kind of right that wrong that you're trying to right,
Hmm.
something that is inside of you. What was the moment that made you say, you know what, I need to start my own private practice, and here are the reasons behind that?
You bet. That's a great question. And I'm reaching for a book here because I keep it close by because it comes up a lot on interviews like this. And I'm sure
Mm,
you're familiar with it and a lot of your audience are, but anyone listening without video, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And that is essentially the question you're asking. What's your why, or what's my why?
mhm.
And doing something like starting your own business is extremely hard in a lot of ways. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean it's not fun, but it's hard.
Hmm.
And so having that why will drive you through the parts of it that don't feel as fun will be sustaining. And Simon is a great teacher of that concept. So
Hmm.
my why was a combination of things. I already mentioned the abrupt separation. I'm one of those folks who was in a corporate job with in a state where employment is at will. So either party can just say bye at any point, essentially, with a certain amount of notice. And that happened to me one day, just out of the blue and without cause. So they weren't able to point to anything that I did wrong. But it was completely without warning, and all of a sudden I just didn't have a job, and that uh, was a blessing in disguise. I needed that.
Mm.
I'm sure they sensed that it just wasn't being handcuffed a bit in a corporate environment like that, and just the way I was practicing didn't feel right to me in terms of how I wanted to take care of people. So I wasn't experiencing that joy on a day-to-day basis that I thought could be possible. So part of the why was, well, I got to do this. I have to have money again for my family and for just daily living, of course, and I want to continue seeing patients. And the other why is that I knew that there was such a better way to deliver care in the outpatient setting than the
Mm.
standard is currently. And I see that as a huge opportunity. There is such a relatively low standard, not in the like diagnostic and treatment end. That's table stakes. Get the right
Mm.
diagnosis, do a standard of care type of
Right.
treatment. Everything beyond that. How fast can we get people in? How do we speak to them when they call us on the phone or send us a message?
Mm.
How do we care for them throughout the entire process? How transparent are we? How trusting of our patients are we, and of them of us? So those are the areas that I saw could be way better. And there was it felt not easy, but it felt like a great opportunity because the standard was, in my opinion, fairly low after having worked in it for 4 years. So that is the why, and that continues to drive me. I know that patients are looking for something else. They're
Hmm.
already paying a lot because of deductibles if they're inside the insurance system. So I want them to get something more for their money.
Absolutely. Your story is very similar to ours.
Hmm.
And my wife, so I do apologize. My wife couldn't be here today for this
That's all right.
interview. We typically do it together, but uh, she had that same motivation, and I love the way that you described it. That the standard of care is table stakes.
Mhm.
Like that's just entry into the party.
Yeah.
And it's the service aspect that you were talking about that really kind of sets the tone, and really makes an impact in patients' lives, and probably is the area where a lot of practices generally maybe dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, you're passionate about being able to kind of right that wrong. Um, let's dig into some of those specifics, Dr. Stephen, in regards to um, how did you approach fixing some of those key things? And maybe is there a couple of things that you can pull out of your head? Whether it is how the phone is answered, whether it
Mhm.
is, the SOPs of how you get back to people in a timely manner, or was there certain things that kind of jump out at you that were important to you to solve, and how did you solve those things?
Yeah. And I'm still deep within those very early stages right now, so I can speak directly to it because I'm currently iterating on it every day.
Mm.
But where how I looked at it, sort of a lens that I looked at it through was I, there are a lot of advantages that the big practices have, or the big hospital conglomerates, these integrated systems. They have a lot of inherent advantages because of their size and market share, and ability to just lots of capital, lots of ability to employ large staffs and things like that. So they have certain advantages. I am not advantaged in that way currently in my practice, but I have certain advantages over them. So what are those? And those are things that make it feel like a different experience when you're going in. Doesn't just feel like you're, my patients say words like this all the time: assembly line, factory, 5 minute dermatology,
Mm.
2 minute dermatology. I say a lot of those phrases, but it's partly because I'm parroting what my patients say. And
Mm.
so I'm seeing that those are the things they're experiencing in more typical practice. and I'm recognizing that as something that I can bring them or a pain point that I can solve for them. So it feels right now, because I'm the only person, but it's also nice for the patients at first as I'm building a brand. I answer the phone. If I don't answer the phone, I have a message that says, please send me a text message if this isn't, if you're able to. If not, I'll get back to you in a relatively timely manner. But people are often surprised, but delighted in the end, usually, that I'm on the phone. And they say, well, how do I schedule? And I say, you can do that right with me. Let's talk about how I can best take care of you.
Mm.
And it's not a phone tree. It's not a There's a big concept that I keep in my mind about how I feel like patients who are part of these big systems are taken for granted by the systems that they're part of. So it they don't feel bad saying, "Well, it's February, so the next dermatologist can see you in October or July or whatever." That's
Yeah.
just the way it is, and I like to. Anytime I hear that's just the way it is or that's just how we do it as an excuse, I try to examine that issue and see how that might not be the way it is. So I try to get people in relatively quickly, and that's one of my advantages. I don't have a huge load of people looking to me because I'm a new player in this space. But for the people who do come to me, I can get them in rapidly, which is always delightful because they're usually expecting a 3 month wait at least at this
Mm.
point.
Hmm.
So a lot of same week visits, a couple last week, or even same day visits, at least within a couple of weeks, is how people are getting in. And also, what works for you? Let's look at your schedule. Tell me what would be most convenient for you, because I'm a doctor. It's hard for me to go to the doctor, right? Just like you and your wife, I'm sure. So I understand that not everybody's schedule works for a Wednesday at 2 p.m. or just whatever I throw at them. And then once they get in the door, it's a whole the feeling is very different. It's not fill out this form, go sit over here, wait till the doctor calls you. Okay, why are you the medical assistant? Why are you here? A few different questions that never really get addressed again, or if there's these rote forms that feel frustrating. I oppose all of those types of things that I don't think are useful, but they are just the way of doing business. And people always send it. I feel like people always sense that, and by the end of it, they're just really happy. They shake my hand. I have more patients contacting me asking me, when are you going to send me a bill, rather than having me having to fight them to pay the bill. So that's
Mm.
sort of something that stands out to me as I'm doing something right, because people actually want to pay for it. So those are, and also just spending time with patients. I'm a very low volume practice right now. I devote a lot of time to each patient, and that it sounds concierge because it is, but I do still take insurance. So
Mm.
it's not like I'm charging $900 for a visit because I spend an hour with you and a lot of time afterwards as well. I'm just building a brand and building my way of doing things. So right now, I do take a lot of insurance plans, but I don't say, well, this is a Medicaid visit, so I got 5 minutes to do it, and let's get it done because I'm going to get $75 for it or whatever. I approach everybody the same. Everybody gets the time that they need, and I feel like the time invested up front in that first visit makes every other visit down the road for the next, whether it's 3 months or 15 years that patient is with me, going to feel different because they know what I did for them up front. So that's a belief I have and a bet that I'm making in terms of what I'm investing in that, especially in that first visit. So those are some of the things we can talk about: marketing and just communication, how even down to the nitty gritty, like how I have people make payments and invoices and all of that stuff. We can get into it, but I just try to humanize it, and I try to be the person walking in because I'm part of the
Mm.
system. Most of the doctors I go to are in big systems, and I get really frustrated with it.
Mm. Wow, that is a I love your answer there. And so you're clearly, like you said, trying to right the wrongs that you've already experienced personally.
Mhm.
Let me play devil's advocate here, because you are starting your private practice, and what your practice looks like now, patient wise, patient volume wise, is going to look very different in 6 months, 12
Mhm.
months, 18 months, 24 months. What say you to the person who says, well, that's not scalable, Stephen. You're not going to be the person who can continue to answer the phone. You're not going to be able to spend all of this time with one individual person,
Yeah.
especially if you don't want to have this long wait. Because if you are spending so much time with an individual, now it's less people you can see in a day, and now your schedule gets booked out. What are your thoughts on that? With me playing devil's advocate there.
I love that you're playing devil's advocate. I try to have that devil on one shoulder every day because I do know that if I don't proactively see that future and think about how I'm going to build toward it and adapt to it, I will just become what I'm opposing right now because yeah, sure. Once I have to truly have only a certain amount of a very small amount of time with each patient, I'm just going to turn into what I'm running away from. So that's where I have four core values in the practice, and I try not to make that corporate speak that we just put on a billboard somewhere, but it doesn't actually feel that way once this
Yeah.
patient is interacting, and they're on the bottom of my business card. One of them is access. So I'm thinking about, okay, how do I never have a 3 month wait list or 6 month wait list? And that will be about uh, as I'm building, once I know that I need, or as I'm actively focusing on expanding my team, how do I allow the short answer is Starbucks, right? Having this model in mind of a franchise, but a franchise that feels great. Still, I go to Starbucks, I spend a lot of time there and I spend a lot of money there, and I don't
Hmm.
begrudge it because it's a certain experience. And they've had ups and downs over the years, and they
Yeah.
respond to it but it still feels like a great place to go in. And
Hmm.
the CEO isn't there, nobody's there every day. It's an 18-year-old running the shop, and look they got a book they're running it by, right, too. So it's my job to write that book, write it really
Mm.
thoughtfully, and constantly adapt that book to innovate every day to change how can we do each of these things better. So as I'm building it, I'm writing these as you mentioned, SOPs, these standard operating procedures. I'm writing that book in my head, the sort of second brain of the business, so that eventually I could make patients feel much of what they feel currently with me, with just about anyone who's qualified to provide good dermatology care. And that's a pipe dream. That's a big time goal. And that's not necessary. I don't have to do that. I want to build the practice, kind of like Michael Gerber says, the E-Myth guy. I want to build the practice so that somebody would want to buy it because they're
Hmm.
like, damn, this is a machine. This just
Hmm.
works and it's a great product. So of course I'd want to buy that. But I don't have to know that I want 20 locations in 4 different states within the next 5 years. I can still build towards something that would sustain that in a successful way, even if I only ever ended up having one location with 10 staff members and we were all very happy, and that's all we ever did. So I like that approach because it doesn't. I get nervous when my business coach or something says, "Well, what does your practice look like in 5 years?" It's good to have those vision boards and those sessions and think about it, but I don't like it. It makes me nervous when I have to commit because I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to have a stroke in 2 years and then my life is going to look different, or I'm going to
God
have to
forbid.
take care of someone. But if I'm building the practice in a way that is scalable,
Yeah.
but still adheres to those core values and delivers a product that's, pretty darn similar to what people are getting right now, that's the goal. And so access is one. The other values are trust is one. I just want patients to feel that from the beginning. I want that never to be broken. If it is broken, I want to fix it right away. And hospitality is a big one as well. And the last one is accountability. So those four core values, every decision I'm making for the practice, I run it through those four filters. Like, is this in service of one of those things and
Mm.
not in disservice of any of them? And then if I can make those, that helps me make decisions and basically helps me write that book. But it sounds great, and I hope it's a great someday. But right now it's messy. I'll tell you, it is messy as heck
Absolutely. I
behind the
mean, you
scenes.
just
Behind the scenes.
yeah, you just hit on yeah, behind the scenes,
Yeah.
exactly. You just hit on a very important point, Dr. Stephen, and I hope that anybody who's watching this who has their own private practice recognizes that none of us have this all figured out. We are I'm not talking about the medical side, the standard operating procedures, the how to actually provide the dermatology care. They have that figured out. But the whole idea of how do you build this team? How do you build these standard operating procedures? How do you structure the practice? Should you start solo? Should you team up with somebody else?
Yeah.
All of these different things. There is really no right or wrong answer.
No.
And so it's always a pleasure to talk to somebody. And full disclosure, Dr. Stephen, that's the reason why we started this podcast, is
Sure.
because we don't know what the heck we're doing. We feel like a lot of times it's so good to talk to somebody else
Yeah.
and just to hear their perspective. And it's like, well, man, they kind of feel the same way as well. And, you can kind of share best practices or experiences. And so that brings me to my next question. What advice would you have for somebody who is on the fence?
Mhm.
They're like, they got one foot in, maybe they're working in a corporate job, they're thinking about taking that leap. What advice would you have for a person like that?
I'm glad you brought this up because I'm going to take a slight detour first. There's one word of caution that I often give in that there if you get into this small but vibrant community of people who talk all about these things, the groups of people who are going to be showing you start with why and talking about Michael Gerber, and it's a shared language and everybody knows these things generally, but you also pick up on new things. But if you're just someone who might be an employed physician and is happy, but all of a sudden you see a reel or read a LinkedIn post or something that's like, oh, this person's talking like the only route is private practice and it's crazy to do anything else. My message to those people is if you are happy, shut it off. Like, there is no reason for you to be spending
100%
your time
agree.
listening to me and having this FOMO or whatever, or
Absolutely.
distrusting your gut if you are truly happy. Like,
Yes.
because it's hard, but for the people who are not happy, and that's points to on the fence, and that's where that is our target audience, either people who are building in actively building or
Mm-hmm.
on the fence and need the
Mm-hmm.
courage to take that leap or need help deciding, well, maybe the other side of the fence is the right way to go.
Mm-hmm.
My advice to them would be, first of all, know, just like you said, everybody is just kind of making it up as we go along with the help of our friends. There
Right.
are guidebooks, and just like taking a trip to Rome or something, you buy a guidebook if you want to hire a tour guide or read some blogs or just show up and wander around. Uh, there still are certain things that you are expected to do as a tourist in another country, and if as
Mm-hmm.
long as you adhere to those things,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a different style of doing it, and you will all have a lovely vacation if you do it
Mm-hmm.
the way that feels right to you. But the if the person on the fence decides to hop over to this side, know that it's way more possible than a lot of people have probably told you so far. There, and ignore the people who are just complaining about woe is me, insurance reimbursements, staff turnover, it's so expensive, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Those are I try not to get in feuds with those people. That's why I don't
Yes.
spend a lot of time on places like Facebook groups and things like that. I do a little
Yes.
bit, but I know my weakness is getting into it with those kind of things, and
Absolutely.
so that takes up too much of my time and energy, and also it dishonors the type of person that I actually want to be. So
Mm.
go for it would be my advice, and know that we're all out there wanting to help each other, and that's why I have my show, that's why you and your wife have your show, because these little, whether it's an actual kind of mastermind that you're in person with folks you trust or just listening to shows like this, it makes us feel like, yeah, it's possible, and you get to do it however you want, within the bounds of taking good care of people in an ethical way. That pretty much everything else is up to you. And if that sounds great to you and worth all the hassle, it's amazing because you do just get to do it how you feel best. And that's usually how patients feel it best to do as well. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I see how I want to take care of people aligns pretty well with how people want to be taken care of, at least the folks that come to see me.
Absolutely. I love the point that you made about the fact that some people are perfectly happy working for a major hospital system, and that is okay. Like, I think that there's a narrative out there with a lot of people that's like, you're a loser if you don't go start your own private practice, and it's so stupid.
Ignore it.
Um, and so I think that is a very important point to make.
Mhm.
Um, but also the point that you made about protecting where you're getting your information from.
Mhm.
Because it was the other resources out there that, again, uh, that we would go to online, and it would be negative and it would be complaints, and it felt almost like a venting,
Yeah.
a place to go and vent and kind of throw up on everybody, or go and, maybe say some "what was me" thing and hope you get a bunch of "oh, it's going to be okay" and that kind of thing. And, you know, the one thing that we found is that you have to protect your thoughts. You have to
Mhm.
protect your mind. You have to protect your belief system, because at the end of the day, nothing that I say this all the time to anybody who talks to us about starting their own dermatology practice. If you're smart enough to become a dermatologist, this is going to be remedial work for you in
Yes.
regards to the actual figuring things out. This
Yeah.
is like you're going to use a tenth of your brain power, right?
Hmm.
I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor, so maybe I'm using 70% of my brain power. But the actual figuring out is not the hard part. It's the battle of the mind. It's the not getting down in the dumps. It's the you know having a month where you spend more than you make, and still being able to have a good attitude about it, and show up the next month, and your team members can't tell, and the patients can't tell what the profit and loss is looking like. And you're thinking long term, and not just, oh my god, what happened last week or what happened yesterday. So those are some very, very good points, man. So my question to you, Dr. Stephen, is what is your um, what is your thought process long term in regards to the style of practice you want to be? When I say long term, I'm not the business coach guy asking you for a
Yeah.
10-year, because I think it's kind of
Yeah.
I almost I'm not a big fan of a lot of these business coaches, because a lot of them, the only business that they have run is a business coaching business.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's not too many businesses, even Fortune 500 businesses, that can truly project out 5 or 10 years. And
Mhm.
so, really, I'm talking like in the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, are you potentially looking to maybe bring on another derm to work with you? Are you thinking about, what are your thought process on working with mid levels? Are you just, kind of keen and dead set on kind of keeping a solo practice model? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Stephen?
I definitely have a vision about that. First of all, to backtrack just slightly, when you mentioned it's not if you went through med school, like don't let people trick you into thinking that this is all that hard. And the quote I always think of, and you and your wife have probably come across it. I always attribute it to Dr. Sunny Smith. She's the owner of Empowering Women Physicians. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's her, but she always gets the credit from me. It's not med school hard, and that is
I love that.
it really distills it down. It ain't med school
Yeah.
hard. It ain't residency hard. It ain't sitting in front of a patient who you just diagnosed with melanoma hard. And
Mm,
we take, especially the women in our field, take for granted that skill every single day because we're good
mm,
at it, and don't
mm.
give ourselves any credit for it. And then don't also think that you could necessarily do something else, especially other things that have so many resources out there that you don't have to pay $250,000 to get. Like med school, there's only one way to do it. You go to med school and you
Right.
have to pay for it. You have it's because it's so damn hard. You would not do med school if there wasn't someone saying you got to show up this time, this test, this OSCE or whatever, this rotation, this first pelvic exam on an actor. Like you would never show up to that if you weren't accountable to someone else and needing that to get that degree. But a business, you don't need to pay anyone to go to school to start a business, but there's a lot of great resources out there. And it's not med school hard. And again, and Who Not How, another great book. Just hire someone. If you don't want to deal with that stuff, find a person who helps people start businesses and start just getting other people, finding those who's and paying them and trusting them first and paying them to help you so that you can continue to just do the good work that you're doing. With respect to the vision, I need to project myself. So I know it's not sustainable to do what I'm doing. It takes a lot out of me, and it's not it's. I'm not going. I don't want to be high volume at it, but it's extremely low volume. So I'm not going to be able to take care of nearly the amount of people that I'd want to take care of.
Mhm.
So my vision is to have a larger team I love the idea of working with mid-levels and advanced practice providers if it's the right person and it's the right context. I
Mm,
am extremely opposed to what many dermatologists have profited dearly off of in this sort of satellite model. And there is an argument about access, sure, but there's also a lot of detriments to that, where one person owns 7 locations, and there's one MD or DO on the website, and the rest are NPs and PAs. That, for me, that's a problem. But
mhm,
if I can have every patient is seeing every patient is being seen in a building that has that leading MD or DO there, even if they don't see the patient, they're there, they're ready to help see them. They can come in for the last 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is. That patient is still going to get the same care because they're getting that amount of time, but I don't have to spend that 60 minutes with every new acne or psoriasis or hair loss patient or whatever it is. But someone else on my team can, and then we can have a few of those going on at once, and I can be the leader going from room to room, but not in the okay, just look at you from the door and say kind of hi, still in a way that honors the original Above and Beyond Dermatology, where I was sitting with for an hour with a person, just helping them get through it, and that's on me to train that those I first of all hire those staff members with that in mind, and then identify the people who are capable of that, and then train them, write them that book so that they can be empowered to, first of all, adhere to it, but also add to the culture. Other people will make my business much better than I would make it alone in the long run if I find the right people. So that's the plateau that I'm at right now. It's scary, as you know, as a business builder and owner.
yeah.
Every climb you do, it's hard, and then you get to a new vista, and it's gorgeous and really fun and exciting. But then there's another one, and you use the skills that you learned coming up the first one to get to that next one. But it's still scary as heck. That's where I'm at. I don't have a team, and that's probably a lot fear based, but it's also just because I'm building a standalone clinic that's probably going to be mid 2026 or so. So that's going to be go time for my team. And right now, I'm just living in the moment and enjoying this. I know I'm going to look back and maybe in 10 years, I'll be like, you know, those days when I was just me, that was fun. So I'm trying to enjoy that while I'm at it, rather than just looking forward to when I have a team. But I do have that vision because it's not sustainable to me to do what I'm doing, but it's fun and it's informative to the business. For me to be doing every job in the business for a little bit of time gives me that empathy and insight into the pain points of each of those jobs too. And that's important to me. It's not necessary that you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it, but for me and my unique situation in life, this was the right way to do it.
Support for the Dermbiz show comes from EasyDerm. If you're a dermatologist or part of a dermatology practice, you know how critical it is to have tools that make your workflow seamless. EasyDerm is revolutionizing dermatology with its intuitive EHR solutions, designed specifically to simplify your practice operations and give you more time to focus on patient care. Their system isn't just easy to use, it's built with dermatologists in mind, making it the perfect choice for practices looking to streamline and grow. Want to learn more? Head over to easyderm.com to see how they can help you elevate your practice to the next level. And here's a little insider tip. Tell them the Dermbiz show sent you. Also, before we jump back in, here's a quick reminder to make sure you're connected with us on all of our other social media platforms. We share other content on those platforms that's going to help you grow and build your private practice. We believe that we need more doctors in leadership positions in private practice ownership, and we believe that our content is going to help you get to where you need to go. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all those platforms. All right, thanks for listening, and another big shout out to EasyDerm. Now let's get back to the show. I love your approach, your being in the moment
Mhm.
approach. You know, because so many times we're always thought to be uh, you know, working now, but a lot of people's head is in the
Mhm.
future,
Yeah.
and so the fact that you're present, you're even just your demeanor, Dr. Stephen, it seems calm, it seems peaceful, almost zen. In the idea of being, and that's kind of in the idea of being in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, my question to you would be, let's get into some details. Let's get more in depth in regards to, let's talk about market. Well, first of all, let's talk about your current space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation about space. Do you rent? Do you buy? Do you lease? Do you partner with somebody else? What was your approach to your initial space? How did you do that? What did you do with that?
That's a great question. I'm actually the co-host of a new podcast through Derm Squared that's called Business Unblemished. And by the time this episode airs, that episode might be out. And I interviewed a wonderful dermatologist, Dr. Schlesinger, who talks a lot about this stuff. And the theme of the episode was rent versus buy. What do we do with real estate as physicians for our practices? And because that same reason, again, you started this show and your wife, these things that don't get taught to us in med school or residency, and there is no right answer, but being aware of all the options so that you can make the right choice in the moment for yourself. The choices I'm making right now would not have been right for me 2 years from now, or 2 years or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And starting a private practice would not have been right for me 4 years ago, when I
Hmm.
didn't have any thought of doing anything but just getting a job and making some money. So I
Hmm.
want to say that to the residents too. I don't want any resident to feel like I have to go out and do this. Learn
Yes.
about it, spend some time, do a great job in a job if you want
Hmm.
to just do that, and be what you probably know Dr. Una. She calls them entrepreneurs. Be a be business owner minded while you
Absolutely.
are an employee, not to a point where you're taking advantage of the owner. You still are an employee and you're getting a lot of great benefits from that. So you need to know your role as an employee and do a good job. But you can I treated my team as though I own the business, and
Hmm.
that helped me learn how to take care of patients and take care of my team as well. So that was helpful. For just thinking, like, that was helpful for me in terms of the space. I would say, relatively risk tolerant in terms of, do I need to have everything buttoned up before I pull the trigger on seeing a patient or whatever? And again, table stakes, safety, these things are not, we're not talking about them because they're assumed. Uh, Licensure, whatever you need to actually ethically and legally see patients. But beyond that, the first space that I rented for $300, I still rent it in a town called Plover. A one single, it was an empty room inside of a really just like attractive workout space. Shout out to Dave Kandra, owner of Forever Fit in Plover. He had a space open, and I still
Love it.
rent it to this day. 1 or 2 days a week, I help people
Awesome.
out there, and it was an empty room. And I moved into it. I was seeing patients virtually first. I had a patient say, "I'd like to see you in person." I said, "Okay, okay. When do, when do you want to see me?" And we put it on the calendar for 3 weeks. The next minute after getting off that phone call, I ordered an exam chair from
I
Scott.
love it. I
Like,
love it.
so that it's there is that is again, that's a far end of the spectrum,
Hmm.
and one side of it. But you don't let perfect be the enemy of good, all of those things. And because I knew I wasn't going to have lots of staff and stuff, like, it was just me, I needed the equipment. I bought a bunch of stuff. I got an account with some suppliers, and I bought the basics and talked to other people about what I need, and I got the chair, and we started seeing patients. And now, with the since last few months at least, I am also the medical director of a wonderful, highly reputable medical aesthetics clinic owned and operated by a nurse practitioner who's an expert in medical aesthetics named Anna Wickland, and that is called Skinnovations Medical Aesthetics. I rent some space, or sublease some space from a space from her, so that she can more readily sustain the two locations she has currently, and that's given me a opportunity to see my patients through Above and Beyond Dermatology in a gorgeous space that's closer to
Yeah.
home for me. And even though it doesn't say Above and Beyond Dermatology on the marquee, and that has that has accelerated my practice in a lot of ways, given me more, making it more sustainable, made it seem more like a medical practice. Because
Yes.
there's I'm going to have patients who walk into the gym and be like, "What is this?" But most people who come to see me understand that they're doing a little something a little different, and
Absolutely.
they get benefits from that. So that's where I am right now. I have a mix of the very non-medical looking space, and a more, but also a beautiful medical space.
Yeah.
That's part of the hospitality. When people come in, I don't want them to feel like they're going to the DMV. Like, that's really important, and it's not just cosmetics. I do like 1% of what insurance would consider cosmetics. I just care about people, and I want them to do better. But and a lot of that is somewhat aesthetic. But I'm in terms of fillers, Botox, things like that. Most of my practice is medical dermatology. I have a couple lasers because they help with rosacea and acne and things like that. And but I still want the space to feel welcoming. Again, back to Starbucks. uh, Starbucks sells very relatively low cost items, right? Not relatively low for what the item is, but still, the tickets aren't $150, $800, whatever. The
Right.
tickets are $7, $12, $15. But it's a welcoming space when you walk in. If that manager's on it and they've trained their team, and they usually have because they got the book, they say welcome. When you leave, they say have a great day, and everything in between. The bathrooms are clean, all that. Uh,
Hmm.
I think I keep Quick Trip as a great Wisconsin company. These Quick Trip convenience stores all around. And when that business was originally being built before it was sold, I believe to a surgeon, perhaps. But anyway, the CEO's phone number was on the bathroom. If this bathroom
Wow.
is not clean, call this number. And
Wow.
you know who was getting the call after
Yeah.
that person called that number? The
Yeah.
manager of the store. So thinking like that is but anyway, I rent currently both spaces. I'm building a space, and that's taking up a lot of space at Headspace. So we could do a whole episode just on that. Like I have a space that I need to, for the partner of mine, demo an old house that's there and build literally from the ground up. And that's super scary, but also really exciting. But that's a ways out. So combination, and that's what Dr. Schlesinger said too. He's like, you're gonna go from renting, it's going to be appropriate one time, owning is going to be appropriate other times, and a mix of in between, and just understand the advantages and disadvantages of each one. And you can also have a mix, but the advantages are awesome in either on either side.
Awesome. So, man, and the nugget that I took out of what you shared was, you were very creative and you started small.
Yeah,
You know,
very.
because everybody always believes you gotta spend a ton of money. And man, when you just said $300 a month, like I got excited. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is awesome because that space does not discount the level of care that you can provide. It doesn't discount the amount that you could bill out to insurance. It's giving you uh, some wiggle room
Mhm.
as you're building your private practice up. We did something similar when we got started. We just contracted with local hospitals
Yeah,
and
nice.
rented space out of those hospitals. And it's one of the, I mean, it was a cheat code for us that allowed us to make a lot of mistakes,
Mhm.
but the mistakes didn't harm us because we didn't have this big, huge uh, debt payment that we had to make to the bank every month. So, now that was awesome. So, talk to me
You don't
about.
need,
Oh,
sorry to interrupt, but what comes to mind there is you don't need to make profit above all else minded decisions because you are scared of not making a payment.
exactly.
So if you burden yourself with those things, you
Yep.
will eventually start prioritizing profit over patients. And I thought I have this model in my mind that it came to me one day, and it makes so much sense. So I always think about it. The places I come from prioritize profit over patients, period. That is undeniable. Everyone who
Hmm.
works there just about will say that, and the patients will feel that as well. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean the gap is like this, but it matters where it is.
Hmm.
So as soon as I put patients over profit, but that doesn't mean patients are here and profit is here.
Right.
It's this. It's always this, and sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it might be like this.
Hmm.
Right now, it's like this. Patients are up here and profit is back here. But if
Hmm.
I ever let it do this, they're like magnets. So they're going to put the profit is going to go this way and patients are going to go this way. Uh,
Mm.
but they're like opposite polar magnets. If I keep patients over profits, it's a it's an active magnet. So as I raise patients up in my practice, boom, 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 profit is going to bump into them all the way up, and
Yes.
it's going to follow them up. So that's the long term bet that I'm making, and it's going. I have no doubt that it's going to prove true, but you can't let it slip. Like that is because as soon as it slips, the polarity reverses, and then it goes like that. So I that metaphor works for me, and it's just every right decision, and then it also makes you make ethical decisions. But it happens to be good for business. Helping the patients is good for your bottom line because they're going to be shocked, and they're going to tell everyone they know, and it's a small town, and you're going to get good Google reviews, and the supply demand economics of our business are just incredible. So we don't have to worry about. We're not in a commodity type of business, so we have that going for us, that headwind, that tailwind. I really apologize for interrupting, but that's
No,
one of the
I
nuggets
love
that
it.
I just really build my practice based on.
No, I love it. And Dr. Stephen, interrupt, please. If something jumps out and
Yeah,
you got a thought, that's what we're here for.
for
I
sure.
want to dig into your approach to patient acquisition.
Yeah.
How are you marketing yourself? Yeah, I know we started in 2018. We started with newspaper ads, and we've tried a little bit of everything. We've done radio, we've done local TV commercials, we've
Mhm.
done Google AdWords, we've done Facebook marketing, we've done it on our own. We've paid people who told us they were professionals and they could just bring us on. We've done it all.
Yeah.
I would love to get your thoughts on what's your approach right now to growing
Mhm.
your patient base and actually getting the word out.
You bet. And I would bet I'd be willing to bet my entire marketing budget for the year, which isn't very high, but that you're going to have the same answer to this question if I was to ask you and your wife after trying all those things.
Hmm.
I do a few things, but right now I have I don't have a ton of capacity. So I need to have patience, but I don't want to have 20 people calling me every day. I would collapse and then I would be a bad product because
Mm.
people would be getting bad service from the jump because I wouldn't have
Yeah,
time to get back to
yeah.
all those. So I'm strategic about how do I want to flood the zone or not yet with my services, but within that, I know that word of mouth is my biggest marketing asset. Uh, and you do need still to get additional leads eventually, especially once I move into the new place. My expenses are going to be much higher. So I am going to need to pay for lead generation. But right now, I appear in a local magazine that's called Wassa Neighbors magazine, and I am what's called an expert contributor in there. So I write an article 4 times or so a year,
Mm.
and I also have an ad that appears and it's sent out to a number of different homes in the area. And that also their package also has some Facebook ads and Google ads just as part of the package. So I'm experimenting with that, but it's sort of it's not a ton expense wise, and everything else is things like this and taking really good care of patients because they take care of me. You take care of your patients, they don't want your business to shut down. They want to be there. So they're going to take care of you. They're going to love it. They're going to tell their friends about it. And word of mouth is by far the most valuable resource. And those reviews, if you can solicit really genuine good reviews
Hmm.
on a place like Google and all the others, that's tremendous because people are going to. I have yet to have a person say I saw your ad on Facebook. Not a single time. That doesn't mean these are impression based ads, so it's important for people to know my brand and see
Hmm.
it 11 times or whatever the marketers say that they need to see it before taking action. So I understand the value of impression based ads, and that just because it's not converting doesn't mean it's not valuable for a new brand. But it's my word of mouth that does it because I do a really good job with folks. I take really good care of them, and then inevitably law of reciprocity, all of that. But eventually I will invest more and I'll try to be strategic about that, but I'll make the same mistakes you all have made because I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Before you make any big investments, give us a call. Maybe
I
we
will.
can
I'd be
help you
happy to. Yeah,
because
yeah,
we
sure.
can honestly say some of the biggest money that we've burned essentially has been with the thought that we were doing some smart marketing
Yeah.
campaign or whatever the case may be.
And of course,
Uh,
marketers are great at selling what they
they're
sell.
great.
Marketers, the marketing experts, of course
I
they
did a
are.
whole episode about it. They're going to be good looking. They're
Yeah,
going to be great to talk to. They're going to be the kind of person that you want to grab lunch with. They're going to be the kind of person that you want to come over to the office and
yeah,
have a conversation with. And it's going to sound amazing.
yeah,
And I don't think that they're lying either, by the way. I'm not calling them scammers or anything
yeah,
like that, but I just don't know if it's some of those programs and those thought processes are as applicable to what we do.
yeah,
Maybe if it was some kind of cool product you're selling on TikTok or something, maybe,
yeah.
but yeah, so that's a whole other thing. Um,
Mhm.
my next question would be let's talk tech. Let's talk apps. Let's talk EMR. What are you using?
Mhm.
What's working for you? Do you have some like hardcore go tos like I couldn't live? I know we have a few of those things like I don't know how we were surviving. We didn't have X, Y, Z, and one, two, three? Like, what are the things that are kind of like the pillars as far as software and apps that you guys are using?
Love it. I'm going to throw it back to you after I answer then, because I would like to know at least one of those that from your end, because I'm always looking to learn from folks like you. I, and again, disclaimer on this, everybody's different. So if you hear one person say this, I could not live without it, that does not mean you have to immediately go
Exactly.
out and purchase a license for that product or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's just, it works for them. And maybe that's because of our personality or the way our practice is, whatever. But you do need to find the right tech. And
Hmm.
now, I mean, living in the AI age, like, is overwhelming, but also really exciting. And there's so much potential if you allow yourself to take advantage of some of that stuff. So I try not to get overwhelmed with expenses related to SaaS in general, the software as a service, because there's a lot of FOMO in that area and a lot of ways
Hmm.
to just melt your business just because you're paying too much for bells and whistles. And I
Hmm.
have a huge aversion to things, as I'm sure you do, things like Epic and Cerner and all these big medical records. So I'm in the spirit of building something in opposition to the typical place that would use Epic, which is the places that I worked prior to this and where I did
Hmm.
residency, all that. Uh, I want to use a record that is a medical record system that's made for helping people who take care of patients take care of patients and making patients feel good, not for billing insurance companies. And that I use one called Practice Better. I just happened upon it one day and I started using it, and I haven't had the time. So I'm working with someone who a wonderful person, shout out Peyton, who works it does some contract work for me on finally offloading some stuff from my plate so that I can think higher level and look at Practice Better and say, what are the things that if I spent a whole day just hacking that and setting something up would set the future up and make everything so much easier? The one thing, this Gary Keller type of model. Practice Better is great. It is made for like functional medicine docs and nutritionists and things like that. And that sounds, because of stupid Instagram and TikTok, as soon as you say words like that, there certain connotations are going to come to mind. But how I see it is it's made for people who don't have to rely just on insurance companies. So
Hmm.
they just take care of people. So the product is designed to take care of an end user, that is the consumer, rather than capture the right ICD-10 code combination so you can get the most out of your Medicare or whatever and that's what we know Epic is for. And that's why Epic has a Harry Potter campus in Madison, because they've been tremendously profitable doing that, and because the government fed them a lot of money too. So I like Practice Better. I don't know if I'll always use it, but I love it right now. And I'm always experimenting with other uh, things to make my job easier as a solo practitioner. So anytime I hear it's, hey, I'm a dermatologist, I built this thing, I'm looking for people to try it, I usually jump on things like that. So shout out to the owners and founders of a company called SubQ Docs. That's a dermatologist founded and built essentially an EMR that really is really helpful for transcribing, using transcripts based on audio to uh, uh, formulate a very helpful note, ICD codes, billing, all of the patient sort of summary, all of that. So I'm testing that, and that's been working really nicely. There's also another company, not just dermatology, but it's called OnCall.ai, and that's another one very similar. But they're just, as we talk to patients on the phone a lot, we're not capturing for the revenue that we should be for that. If it's an insurance based patient, we're already getting so much lower than what we deserve. You need to be billing for these things if you want to be sustainable and continue to go above and beyond with how you are when you're on a phone with a patient. So that transcribes the call. It tells
Mm.
you exactly what you should bill for every time, even if it's just a call that's between visits about, yeah, what's that name of that medicine again? How am I supposed to use it? All that. And it gives you an automated way to do that, at least make suggestions about it. So uh,
Mm.
I've been enjoying trying that out, and I try to get in with these companies early on to help them out. I'll give you one last one because I am an investor in it. So disclaimer or disclosure there, and I'm also the executive director of dermatology there. It's a company called First History. It's out of Canada, so they're all extremely nice, which is one part of that reason that I like to work with them. But they are building a history forward, not AI, but AI informed. But they're disrupting the medical intake form. And I send this
Mm.
thing all of my patients ahead of time, and all the questions. It's this very complex tree of questions, but it's not AI. It's not generative AI, because you can predict based on the input exactly what the output will be in the next question, rather
Mm,
than is this thing going to hallucinate. And every time I ask a patient, did you have any problem with that? How was it? They say it was great. It didn't feel like a regular form, and it actually is helpful. It goes right in my note. I can talk to them about everything that's in it, and it didn't take them a long time to do because it's very user friendly. And then it gathers data. It's not a piece of paper that goes in a filing cabinet, because I need to have it on file in case
mm,
I get audited by an insurance company, or I need to have it on file for MIPS or MACRA or whatever. I absolutely deplore that stuff. So First History is an awesome tool that is growing in a lot of different spaces, and it saves me time since I am the only one here. I don't want to ask a patient, what are your medications? What are your allergies? I want to have it there. I want to be able to uh, help them based on that info. I'll verify that info if it's relevant, but I don't want to spend our precious time asking them about their list of medications. So
mm.
that's First History is another one that I really like.
Okay.
I'd love some of yours, or one of yours at least. We're all different, but evolving over time.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be following up on some. You said it's
Yeah,
firsthistory.com.
First HX. So First History, but HX. So if you just
Okay,
Google First HX, you'll find it. And they are awesome. I love being a part of that team, and just being able to test out and help evolve and develop the dermatology side of what they do, because it is very
awesome.
specific. They build specific intake forms for the different specialties, and within those specialties, very specific areas. The sky's the limit. So you could get easy scores and posi score, like potentially these types of or dermatology, like daily living, whatever that score is. Those kind of things you could get if you have them build it, and
Hmm.
then patient fills it out ahead of time. It's not wasting our time. It's not wasting the patient's time, because we actually use it, and you collect that data over time and can learn from it. So I just think that the history part was being ignored, and they are doing a good job not ignoring that.
That's awesome. So first
Yeah,
history,
First HX,
first
First
history, first
HX,
first
called First.
HS,
Yeah,
on call and sub Q docs. I'm going to do my
yeah,
research on all of those.
check them
Um,
out.
real quickly for us, the ones that are like go to for us, the one that I think about immediately is QuickBooks Online.
Oh
Just
yes,
because I am the
I'll
person who is responsible for bookkeeping and tracking and monitoring everything, and I'm the bean counter locally, and I personally feel like for us, that's not. It's a lot of things that I feel like um, you can farm out, you can hire out. And one thing that I don't ever want to hire out is the tracking of where the money is coming in and where the money is going out.
Okay.
And so QuickBooks Online is like a godsend for us in that area. And I know it's a bunch of other accounting softwares that may even be better than QuickBooks, but this is just
That's
what
what
we've
I
been
started
using.
with. I still use
Okay.
it. So yeah.
Yeah. If it's not broke, we're not going to try to fix it.
Mhm.
Obviously, our EHR, full disclosure, the EHR we use is EasyDerm, and EasyDerm does sponsor our podcast. But
Oh, cool.
we were
I didn't know.
using EasyDerm for 6.5 years.
Nice.
They've only been sponsoring us for 6 months, right? So,
Congratulations. That's a huge deal to get a
yeah.
sponsor. That's awesome.
Yeah, but we were using them for 6.5 years before that ever happened. And
Yeah.
EasyDerm is amazing. Again, I've never. So you mentioned Cerna, you mentioned Epic. I've never used any other EHR, but my first interaction with working in a medical environment was when we started our private practice.
Hmm.
I had a sales and entrepreneur and business background before I got started, and my wife and I came together to start the dermatology practice. So Easy Derm is all I know, and I know
Okay.
there's a lot of. I feel like EHRs are almost like it's almost like political. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like
There's,
Republican, Democrat,
yeah.
liberal, conservative. Like you mention what EHR you use, and somebody's going to have an opinion about it
Mhm.
or why it's good. And what I'll say with Easy Derm is Easy Derm has done exactly what we needed to do.
Yeah.
What is it price wise? Is it expensive? Is it cheap? Is it right? I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It
But
doesn't
I
matter.
know
It's not expensive or cheap. Is it value added for your business? So it could be
absolutely,
$10,000 a month. If it's worth 100, there you go. Like, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. So
And the
and
thing,
name Easy Derm. That's if that's true, and it is. These grew out of the pain points of Epic and Cerner and things that weren't built to
yep,
help dermatologists see patients efficiently.
yep,
Dermatologists
by a
specifically.
dermatologist as
Yes,
well.
yes. And Emma, modernizing medicine, these kind of things. So those are no shade at all to those. The only advice is use a system that makes your life easier, and it will
Absolutely.
not feel like an expense. It'll feel like an investment. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And the
thank you for
thing that I appreciate about Easy Derm is the tech is awesome. I mean, they're doing updates, but I think this goes back to what you were saying. Tech for a tech company, that's the table stakes.
yeah.
You can't impress me just because you have all these extra features and benefits. What I love
Hmm.
about Easy Derm is I have a person, an actual live human being who I know, I've developed a relationship with over years, who I can call, email, text, Google Meet, Zoom, whatever I need to do at a moment's notice if I have a problem. When we started, they flew their team from South Florida to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they were there with us day one.
Yeah.
All of this chaos and the struggle and the worry, oh my God, are patients going to actually show up? What are we doing? Is this going to actually work? They were like there with us, holding our hand, walking us through how to implement the technology. And that was, that made all the difference for us. So the relational component, along with the technology component as
And
well.
they've never gone away. You know, the laser
Exactly.
salesman rep or that kind of thing. Best way to get rid
Exactly.
of a laser salesman and buy a laser, that kind of thing. And they're not all like that, but
Exactly.
that brings us full circle to what I said about my bet on in making these first visit impressions and investments in my patients.
Yes.
Exactly how you are, regardless of the fact that they sponsor the show, you're clearly happy with the product and you've been using it for 6 years, sponsored for 6 months. So that anyone uh, who's not just looking to hear their own voice will understand that that's pretty legit. Uh, they you are raving about that investment they made in you from the beginning. That didn't
Absolutely.
turn a profit for them immediately, of course.
Right.
Like that, and but now you've, I imagine, been a very profitable client for them, and they've been a very profitable service for you. And
Absolutely.
what could be better than that? So that just reinforces that it's not everything we do is going to. If you can make decisions not just about is this going to make me money or not in the like
Absolutely.
in the next 5 minutes do I get more money for doing this. That's how you build a great business.
Absolutely. It's the relational component because honestly, throughout our time of building our private practice, and I know you've experienced this as well, Dr. Stephen, it is very lonely to own and operate your own private practice. And ironically enough, you'll see this as well as you grow bigger and you bring on staff, it's going to get probably even lonelier because there's going to be things that are going on that you can't talk to them about, or they don't really care,
Yeah,
or if you bring it up to them, it's going to create some kind of fear
sure.
or uncertainty. But for us, Easy Derm has been the consistent partner that we've had, and so
Beautiful.
we've been able to have they've grown with us. When the whole change healthcare thing happened and all of the not getting paid, we were able to talk. They were the people that we had conversations with and were able to communicate with. When things were going great and we were expanding and we're hiring a new provider and they were a part of that whole process. When things weren't going so great. And we
Yeah,
had to let some people go, and they were a part of that process as well. Whether we're talking about marketing our practice or all the different things that we're doing, we're adding a new location. They have been along the journey with us, and it does feel good to have that one or two people that that you can call,
yeah,
that you can have very intimate conversations about the inner workings of your private practice. And lastly, I would say in regards to the things that we have to have on a day-to-day basis, is the basics, the payroll software, ADP. I mean,
sure.
we use ADP. That's very important for us as well. They have the time clock option that allows you um, um, to to have multiple different locations because we serve 7 different locations in the Upper Peninsula. I mean, that's just the geographic makeup
Yeah,
of the Upper Peninsula. Is there is no specialty in the Upper Peninsula that does not travel.
It's a desert. Yeah, yeah,
To
you bet.
cardiology to if you specialize in a medical any kind of medical space in the UP, you're not working in one place all
Mm,
the time because your skill set is too valuable and the UP is too large um, to expect people your patients to be driving 75-year-old patients to drive 2.5 hours to come see you. Um, so um, so yeah, those are some. And thank you for sharing some of your go to.
yeah. Well, here's another interruption. Every practice should have a Tony. This is the again the who not how thing. I am actively working on getting a lot of stuff off my plate, and I do have I have QuickBooks Online, and I still use that. Uh, but I also took on partnered with a bookkeeping service, which has been wonderful because I will shout out again. It's called Better Bookkeeping,
Mm,
founded by a gentleman. The I can't remember the woman co-founder of the company. I think they're a couple. I'm not sure, but her name is Evan Walbridge, I believe,
mhm,
and the gentleman is also last name Walbridge. They and my actual contact who does my daily stuff, Derek. They just make me feel taken care of. Just back to your point
mm,
about Easy Derm, and they are a it hit my pain point of I don't want to have someone who's caring about my tax return but not my tax planning, and someone who's
mm,
caring about my books but not my tax return or planning. It's
mm.
all in one, and it's
Yeah.
personal and business, so they have all of it, and they also do planning as well and strategy.
Mm,
So that and day-to-day bookkeeping, so it's
mm,
all of those in one. So that was an investment that felt like a lot but is definitely not a lot for the service that they give me, and the comfort that I have knowing a professional who I trust is running this in the background, even though I still keep track of things on my own in QuickBooks, because there's Facebook posts I've read that say what's happening? All of a sudden, I have no, I'm not turning a profit anymore, and my bank won't renew the line of credit, and I have to start furloughing people. How can this be happening if I'm seeing 200 patients a week? I'm like, what? How can this be? You're not like paying attention to it. Who is and
yeah.
what? How does that
Yeah.
happen? And I have a
Yeah.
feeling that's not too that unfortunately is all too common that people just trust that someone is doing it, and even though they own the business. So yeah, everybody should have a Tony, and nobody cares more than the business owner. So the fact that you're doing it and you're not going to let someone else do it, but also your wife doesn't have to do it because she's taking care of patients. So that matters, and it's also your skill set. It might not be your skill set, so you're going to do a great job at it. I'm grateful to have somewhat of a Tony, and every practice needs a Tony, but don't just assume that Tony's got it, and just never talk to Tony or don't. That's important too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that brings me to my next question. What are your thoughts? I feel like I feel like building a private practice or any kind of business for that matter is almost the opposite of school, right? And it's interesting when you're talking about a medical practice because ultimately doctors are basically like you guys are like the all stars of school, right? You guys mastered the
Yeah,
normal educational system, and the normal educational system says you study, you study, you study, you study, you study, you study, you take the test, you get the grade. And what I found in entrepreneurship was more like you just go do stuff. You just go do stuff. You just go do stuff. You see what you did wrong. You learn from that, and then you go back out and you go do it again. So you kind of take the test, get wrong answers, and then you study. And then you retake the test, you get wrong answers, and then you study. But you can't really study enough in the beginning to even get a good grade in the test. I may be belaboring this analogy,
no,
but
no, you're
my
right on.
question to you is what mistakes have you made along the way? And what advice would you give to somebody who's starting their own private practice, knowing full well that we can't share any of our mistakes, we can't share enough mistakes that are going to forego all of the lessons that they're going to have to learn on their own, but
Mhm.
maybe you can stop them or help them in some area so they don't make kind of the similar mistake
Makes sense.
that you made.
Yeah. Uh, reflect on that for a second and talk a little to what you said about school versus building a business. And this goes back to speaking to people who aren't sure if this is right for them or they should be an employee. Because hey, us business owners, we need employees. So like the majority of people are who are working are employees, and that
Hmm.
is how it needs to be. And so there's nothing wrong with that. Uh, but the people who are very comfortable in that school framework roadmap, do this, get that gold star, go go go, and we've are really succeeded in that. Maybe you have no interest in experiencing the other side, and that's also a clue of don't do this. There's no reason to. You will be a wonderful employee. You will make plenty of money if you're a
Plenty, exactly.
dermatologist. Not a problem.
The plan B of a
Yeah.
dermatologist, like the ceiling, the floor
Yes.
is amazing. It's
Yes,
an
as long
amazing
as you don't let
floor.
yourself get taken advantage of, which almost all employed people probably are, but because there's so much leverage in those big companies over the employees, but still, even that they make great money regardless. So if you don't have any interest in the non-school version, the not roadmap, just there's a book I have not read, but I know everything I need to know from the title because it's so good, and what a great book for that reason. Ready, fire, aim. And school is ready, aim, fire.
Yeah.
Business is ready, fire, aim. And
Hmm.
you gotta fire. You don't and there's I don't like the people, well, this is medicine, you can't do that. And so we're still using fax machines because that's the philosophy that the boomers and everyone has come before us has shoved down our throat because we're so scared of. I don't think a fax machine is very secure. You put a wrong number, it goes to someone else. It goes to the Staples fax
Exactly.
office.
Exactly.
Like, so there, the reason I say that is because you have to be willing to, within the bounds of medicine, of good ethical medicine. You're not like, I had a dream about this new sort of rotational flap last night, and I think I'll just try it right now. Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But you can, maybe I'll say this different. Maybe I'll answer the phone differently this time, one word in a different order, and maybe I'll
Right.
have some data about that. And any version of that that's not going to hurt someone, but
Right.
can improve your business over time. You get to make that up as you go along, and you can spend as much time figuring out what are those things to do and hire consultants or whatever, or you can just have a dream, an idea, and say, okay, that's not going to hurt someone even if it goes wrong, but it might teach me something that's really valuable for my business. And that is, if you don't do those things, allow yourself to do those things, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and your business, I don't think, will grow as well. And you also have to be willing to make the mistakes because no business ever got anywhere without making the mistake. So I don't have like, this is the mistake that I made and this is how you can avoid it. But I think the mistake is not being willing to make the mistakes, because then you.
Mm.
So if you just go in with the mindset of it's not a mistake, it's not negative data, it's just learning like a scientist. It's not like,
Yes.
damn, my hypothesis is null this time. It's just data. You learn from the data and you move on. And then eventually there's that one data point that changes the game. And so I feel like I'm in startup life and it's messy, and it's like that the early Facebook thing, move fast and break things. We
Yeah.
can't do that to the point of Facebook. And I
Right.
don't want to do that. A lot of bad things happen because of that to some extent. But I also don't have to operate like a dinosaur and be
Right.
scared of everything. And a lot of dermatologists are really type A and really risk averse and really scared of everything. And
Right.
if that's who you are and it's not an insult, just be an employee. You'll be fine and you'll take great care of patients and you will make a lot of money again. But just be willing, understand that building a business is not the same. And if you try to build a business the same way as you went to med school and acted as a successful employee in a big system, you're not going to succeed.
Mm.
And if you expect to be profitable on day one, that's why I wasn't going to build something out straight out of residency. I needed the comfort, safety net to make mistakes, pay for them, and know that I didn't need to be profitable from day one or month one or year one. You
Mm.
need to have an expectation of being profitable within the first few years. I think
Absolutely.
maybe you'll be profitable right away, but you will make bad decisions if you start something like this without thinking that you need to pay the mortgage. with this business, like
Absolutely.
from the jump. So, not really the answer to your question, but I think at least a mental model to go by, that the mistakes are part of the learning and need
Absolutely.
to happen in order to get or to you have to turn over a lot of stones that don't have anything interesting under them to turn over the stone that does.
Man, that's the even better answer than I was hoping to get,
Okay,
Dr. Stephen.
good.
Thank you so much. That wraps up my questions in our interview for today, Dr. Stephen. I want to thank you for taking the time and sharing your experience, sharing your wisdoms, sharing your knowledge on how you've been able to start your own private practice. You shared some really cool mental models with us. You
Yeah,
referenced a bunch of books with us. You shared apps and software and websites. And so I hope this interview was as impactful to our viewers as it was to us, as well as private practice owners. Um, would you mind sharing with people, like, where can they find you? Like,
mhm.
the website for your private practice, your podcast, all of those good things.
Well, thank you, Tony, to both you, and tell me your wife's name. I'm sorry, I don't
My
want to keep
wife's name is Dr. Mercy.
Dr. Mercy. Thank to you and Dr. Mercy for your hospitality, having me on the show. Don't cut this out, please. You can if it's your show if you want. But
I won't.
we were talking offline at this before. I did not do some of the homework that was assigned prior to the show, and the way that I expressed that I wasn't going to do it was written late at night and was really rude. And that is, it doesn't matter. It happened, and it happens to all of us. And so I don't even know who that was getting that. It might have been an assistant. It might have been someone who's helping you out. It might have been one of you. So I want to apologize to that person, first of all. And the decision I made was still going to be, well, it's still the right decision, but it could have been delivered in a much kinder way.
Mm,
And I think that's a decision or an experience that we learned from as well. I was tired. I'm super overwhelmed in my business right now. I have no time for anything. I
mm,
have two young kids, all those things. So have some compassion for yourself in the midst of that, but also when you screw up, like I did, apologize and sometimes do it publicly if you want to. That will build a culture within your business of,
mm,
like, the leader can come out and say that they screwed up and, like, not be too proud to say that. And if I treat, like, someone's virtual assistant or whoever, or let alone you or Dr. Mercy, like that's really bad job by me. So again, the ultimate decision stays the same, but the way I went about it was a product of a number of things, and just me being a little bit of a DICK at that moment, and that's not okay. So apologies to all of you, but you can find me at Above and Beyond Dermatology. The Above and Beyond Derm is the website. Above and Beyond Dermatology podcast. We have about 650 some episodes out as of this recording, so I'm really proud of that. That's my main marketing. Back to the marketing. That's my main
mm.
most consistent marketing venture, because I just know it's a long-term investment that will pay off. And a lot of other places you can find me as well, but Dr. Stephen Lewellis, Above and Beyond Dermatology. And thank you very much. I guess the one last shout out that I didn't talk about would be a company called Learn Skin. No affiliation there other than I do some speaking for them from time to time. And I'm a
Mhm.
graduate of what's called the Integrative Dermatology Certificate Program. Teaches dermatologists how to think outside the box and use stuff that's not just the typical prescriptions and procedures, and integrate that into your conventional practice. Patients are looking for this stuff. It will empower you to, if you want to start a practice, deliver something different that patients are looking for. And it doesn't mean you need to sell snake oil. So shout out to all of them, and the Integrative Dermatology Symposium, which is coming up in August 25 in Arizona. So that was a lot more than you likely expected.
Oh, that's
Thank
great.
you for letting me air that out. I was losing sleep over it. I do that sometimes. If I write an email or a text and I'm angry about something else, it is a bad idea. And I've always been bad at that, but at least I apologize for it more frequently than I used to.
I appreciate that, Dr. Lewellis. You are a class act.
Thanks, man.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you for having me, Tony. I appreciate it. And to Dr. Mercy and anyone, all the folks on your staff, as well as EasyDerm for sponsoring the episode, of course. And I'm glad you've had a success with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate your time today.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Dermbiz Show. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and packed with value to help you navigate the challenges of running your private practice. We'd love to hear from you. Is there a specific topic you'd like us to cover or a question you want answered? Reach out to us at thedermbiz@gmail.com or drop us a message on social media. Your input helps us tailor the show to what matters most to you and your practice. Speaking of social media, don't forget to follow us on all of our platforms for updates, bonus content, and tips to keep your practice running smoothly. And of course, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in today, and we can't wait to have you join us again the next time. Until then, take care, keep thriving, and we'll see you the next time on the Dermbiz Show.